Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Birdie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Welcome to the Get Published podcast. My name is Paul Brody, and I am thrilled to introduce you to one of our clients, Sheriff Mark Lamb. And we had the privilege to help him launch his book a few months ago. We also helped his wife Janelle with her book as well. So talking to the original, the American Sheriff, Mark Lamb. How you doing, Sheriff?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, as always, we're thrilled to have you. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
So I heard some advice, as you're writing your book, you look at watch all sorts of different videos, trying to figure out the best way to write your book. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I heard was just write 250 crappy words a day. I know it sounds funny, but if you're committed to writing 250 words a day, sometimes it may not be great, but at least it's 250 words. But the majority of the time, you're going to get into a groove, and you're really going to get going and writing. You'll end up writing a few thousand words. And I think that's the key to it, and because I did that, I ended up knocking my book out within just a matter of weeks, where it probably would have taken me a lot longer had I just tried to write when I felt like it. You kind of just have to push yourself outside that comfort zone, and when you start getting into it, it starts to flow. So I guess the best advice I could give somebody who is currently writing their book is just sit down and write 250 words a day and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about that daily habit, right? Yesterday, I completed a year in a row, 365 days straight, just doing my daily exercise on my bike. And it's the same thing with doing your writing. It's just about creating that habit, making it as part of your day and your routine, and just being consistent. And it's just amazing what you can get done. I mean, just as an example with my streak with the bike and the exercise, I mean, I'm reading every day and I'm reading books. And the crazy thing is, we're right now in the end of March, and just in these past 3 months, I've read 6 books. And it's the same thing with if you're dedicating that daily habit to writing. Just imagine how many books you could actually write by just having that consistent habit. Because you and I both know you're going to end up writing more than 250 words a day. That's a given. But just setting it as that base to get started, I mean, that's really the key.
It is. And it's just about, like you said, it's like anything, consistency. Just disciplining yourself to do it. And sometimes you may only have time to write 250 to 500 words. Maybe it's not flowing. But the only way to get those flow days is if you're actually writing every day.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I mean, there's a lot of parts that I think would have been very hard had I not gone through you guys. It's getting on Amazon. These are things that are, it's hard enough to understand your KDP, which is your back page for your Amazon, let alone getting your book on there, making sure you get on the bestseller list, the editing piece. All of these are pieces that I probably would have struggled with and probably would have been a hindrance to getting the book published, which was the key going through you. And, I don't mean that. I'm not just saying that because we're on the line talking with you, but I'm saying that because that's just the truth of it. As far as, I think it's just trusting in what you're writing. There were days where I would write and I'd think, nobody wants to hear this. Who's going to care? Who wants to read this? Who wants to buy this? And I think you just have to trust in your story, write your story, and the people who want to hear it will buy it, and the people who don't won't. And you just have to be comfortable with that fact. So I think it's really just trusting in you, yourself, your story, and let it flow out, and hope that there's enough people that want to hear it. Even in the very end, there was right before we were going to go to publishing it into the book, I was still saying to my wife, maybe I should call Paul and just say, time out, let me just change some things. And I finally just had to just let go and give up control, and I'm glad I did.
Well, and I remember having a couple of conversations with you about that at the time, and that the main thing I wanted to emphasize was that done is better than perfect. I mean, your game plan is to write multiple books, so you don't have to make that first book the be all and end all. It's really an introduction to you, your life, your philosophy, and then of course leveraging that for the back end with everything, with some of the different things that you had on your website and different things you could do to take your brand to the next level. But the main thing was just done is better than perfect. Get it out. We can make adjustments if we need to over time. But the thing is, you're planning multiple books. So I always say, get people's appetites wet, get them ready to want to take that next leap with you. And then they're able to utilize that for future books and just realizing this is really the foundation. This isn't the entire house. This is the foundation and just building it onwards.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Well, I've done a couple different marketing strategies, and I think you have to employ a few different strategies because you've got your online and your warm market, your social media presence. Fortunately, I had a good social media following, so I was able to sell some books online through that. That was a good boost and got me out the gate real quick. But I'll be honest with you, marketing wise, my wife and I, we both wrote books. So hers is called The Sheriff's Wife, holding it all together behind the scenes in politics. But the two of us, see, there you go, there's marketing right there. But the two of us together have had to go out and really just hustle. I think when you write your first book, the odds say that you're only going to sell 250 to 300 copies, the average self-published book, unless you want to go out and hustle. So my wife and I, we try to hit events every weekend where we're doing book signings, and we found a good niche for us was just because of my job and the people that follow me, we hit a lot of these gun shows, and we go out and in a 2 day, thing, we're selling 300 books. So just in one weekend, we're selling more than what the average self-published book can sell. So I think that you've got to have a couple different marketing strategies. You've got to have your online marketing strategy for those people that follow you or you know on your social media, and then you have to have a marketing strategy on the ground to get that book sold. And hopefully you can get caught in some vein where people are seeing the book that are outside of your warm market or outside of those areas where you're pushing it, on the ground.
Well, one of the main points with your launch was all about leveraging it because it's one of the things I emphasized to you in the start. If you're expecting to make a fortune royalties on Amazon, you're typically in for disappointment. Now, the thing is, both you and Janelle, you did make a lot of money in royalties through Amazon, but the main leverage point was utilizing the paperback version of that book, getting the author copies, selling them on your website, and in addition to that, you were also doing these at the shows. But another thing that you've done, which I love, is you are basically doing bundles. You have this really cool coin that I'd like for you to tell us a little bit more about and how you leverage that with an autographed copy of the book, the coin, and some of the other things that you used as leverage points to really emphasize the back end with this, and in particularly with those paperback sales.
Yeah, I'm always looking a way to maximize. And in law enforcement, we have these challenge coins, and in military, if you've been in the military or law enforcement, these challenge coins you give out when somebody does something good. And so I created a coin for American Sheriff, and I added that onto a bundle where you could buy the book and the coin. And not only I increased the amount of money I made both on the coin and the book. And I would say that over half of the orders that I was getting online on my website were for that coin and book bundle. And then as we got into the Christmas time, we were bundling up my wife's book as well. So I think that if you can offer more to the customer and give them a feel like they're getting something special, I think that's something very key to the marketing piece. And this coin is a coin that I only give out through when you order the book on my website, and which makes that coin special, and it has definitely increased the amount of book sales that I've had, and in the end, it's increased my bottom line.
Oh, and it's a really cool coin. So one of the things I always ask, as you know, of clients after we've wrapped up a launch is that I always request that you send me over a paperback copy of your book, an autographed. And not only did you do that, you and Janelle both did that, but you also included the coin. And I got to tell you, that is a really cool coin. So you just have that as an extra piece. I was very impressed with that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think the coin really says who I am. It's got the American flag, the Arizona flag on the back. It's got a couple guns on the back because I'm a diehard American constitutionalist. I believe in all of those things. And then on the front, it's got me with my cowboy hat, which is kind of my signature look. And then it's got made in America because I'm made in America, and I take pride in that. So the coin is really kind of a symbolism of who I am and coincides with some of the things you're going to read about when you read my book.
Well, speaking of reading books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, if you're talking fiction book, I love an author named Stephen Hunter. He wrote a book called Point of Impact, which is really good. But I would have to say my favorite book, fiction-wise, um, is Without Remorse by Tom Clancy. It's a big book. It's an old book, but I love that. Now, if you're talking just books in general,
Yep.
and it's a very simple book, but I read it on a monthly basis. Is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. To me, that book speaks to me more than any other book that I've ever read. And I've read a lot of books, some good authors, but As a Man Thinketh by James Allen is my book that I love. I go to a lot. So,
So tell me why. Why is it the main reason that you love it so much, and why do you read it every month? Because that really says something right there.
well, I believe this life is about being the best you can be. I think it's about really maximizing your talents, your abilities, and what gets in our way is usually ourselves. Our own minds get in our way, whether we create fears or whether we just don't trust ourselves or lack the confidence. And this book really speaks to having the proper positive mindset, and that your mindset is really truly what dictates your reality. And if you can control your mind, that is the key thing. I ended my book with this quote, and it's the same way that the book ends, As a Man Thinketh. And the quote goes, "Keep your hand firmly upon the helm of thought. In the bark of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Wake him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace, be still." I think that quote encompasses so much of what we have to deal with in life: is learning how to gain self-control, learning calmness, learning how to have the right thoughts in your head, and mastering that. And really, there is a commanding master in your soul, and most people never wake him, and they don't ever realize, they don't ever make it to the destinations that they should because they failed to wake him. And I wake him every day, and I try to challenge myself and be the best me that I can be. And that book really kind of helps me. And when I'm getting a little off kilter, I read that book and gets me dialed right back in. Of course, the scriptures too. I'll add that in too. I don't want to seem like I don't care about the scriptures, but
Well,
As a
this
Man Thinketh.
this is a great transition. So our final question is about your favorite quote and why. You've just shared a great quote, but share something from Scripture.
My favorite scripture is Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. And I think it goes something like, "Seeing we are encompassed about by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight. Let us lay aside the weight that doth easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us." And then it says, "Keeping your eye focused on Christ, who sacrificed all to be at the right hand of God." That's paraphrasing the second verse, but Hebrews 1 12, 1 and 2 is my favorite scripture in the Bible, and I think that really encompasses what life is. You really do have to lay aside, especially when you're writing books, that cloud of witnesses and what they say and all the weights that easily get you sidetracked, and you have to run with patience the race that is set before you.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So if you go online, you can catch me at AmericanSheriff.com. That's the website where I sell my book. I can send you a personalized copy, and that's where you can also get the coin. And I've got my wife's book up there for sale as well, and it's a great book. She did a great job, and it's been fun to do this together with her. You can also find me on Instagram at American Sheriff. On Facebook, it's Sheriff Lamb. And on Instagram, Twitter, it's Sheriff Lamb1. And then AmericanSheriff.com is going to be transitioning into a subscription site soon. I'm excited to announce that, where we're going to be doing something where we're going to go around to sheriff's offices across the country. And I think there's a lot of people that are missing being in the front seat of our vehicles, responding to calls with us. And we're going to get that back out there. And it's going to be $5 a month on AmericanSheriff.com. And you'll still be able to get my book there as well. So please, come on, check it out and subscribe and get back in the front seat with us as sheriffs across this country.
Well, Mark, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate all you've done for us.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.